Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Rich Nuggets. My name is Dr. Richard Osibanjo. I have a special guest in the house tonight, and her name is Caroline Santiago. Caroline is a personal friend. I've known her for about 5 years. In addition to that, Caroline is the CEO of Utopia Life Consulting. Caroline has been a leadership consultant in the Big Four. She's been a leader there. She's done amazing things, typically working with executives in Fortune 100 companies. So if there's any one thing you want to remember about Caroline, think about executives, think leaders, think high performers, and change and navigating through transition. If that's what you're after, Caroline is the go-to person for that. And on that, Caroline, thank you so much for joining me on Rich Nuggets today.
Richard, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to speak about leadership teams and high performance teams. It's a topic that I'm actually really passionate about. So in my 20 years experience working in large scale organizations dealing change and transformation, this is what I've learned about high performing teams. Number one, I think one of the most important things is having clarity. Most high performing teams, what I really love about the teams that get to the highest level of performance is that they are very intentional. They know who they are. They're very outcome driven, and they know where they're going. And that really is the clarity, embodying clarity about your mission, your purpose, your outcomes, but also even on an individual team level or cross-functional team level, being able to know who's doing what and where, your roles and responsibilities. So I think sometimes, you get, when you do a cross-functional initiative, for example, within an organization, people kind of, they gender around each other's footsteps. But when you have that conversation around who's delivering what, when, and how, and who's the go-to person for X, Y, Z, it makes it a lot easier. So having that conversation up front really helps to identify, having clarity around roles and responsibilities. Again, around communication in general, all I have to say is repeat, because I think the thing is that you can never hear a message enough. And there's just so many people on your team or cross-functional teams. So having open, honest, transparent, and repetitive communication is really important, because what we know about learners, it takes 3 times to actually hear something to actually process it in the brain. So repeat on communication. So another big thing that I think is really important and not spoken about, or kind of one of those things that's taken for granted, is team camaraderie. So I think it's really important to have that spirit of goodwill, trust, and community once we establish a team and we work with multiple teams. So understanding that everybody.
Yeah, let me quickly jump in there, Caroline. So when you talk about team camaraderie, right? Different personalities, executive teams, all full of A-type personalities, people, how do you actually have that camaraderie when it shouldn't be, but most of the time people are secretly competing with each other?
One of the things I do, and a lot of people, they don't do it, but as soon as I hit work with the team, I make sure we do a team building event, and it's something fun. So we can go bowling, we can go painting, but I think it's really people change people's lives. So I think really being invested in getting to know each other, both on a personal and professional level, really builds that team camaraderie, that team spirit, so to say, that goodwill and trust. And again, I think team camaraderie is one of those things that's ever evolving, right? It's a relationship, right? One to many. So you're constantly working on that and building and fostering it. And I think it's something that's, overlooked and taken for granted a lot of the time. But once you build that and foster it, I think in my experience coaching the Navy SEALs, they're probably one of the best teams in the world. They have so much trust and they're so entrenched. They call themselves the brotherhood of the Navy SEALs. It's really because they have each other's backs, right? So that spirit of goodwill, friendship, I mean, they would live and die for each other. So I think that level of commitment is really what makes high performing teams successful. So that's another one that I think is really important, is everybody having that 100%, 110% same level of commitment that each contributor to the team brings. When everybody commits, outcomes start to happen, right? We achieve those goals because everybody is putting all this time and energy to achieve that. So I think I've seen teams that don't perform as well as the level of commitment to each other and to the team's goals fosters. And you see that in the output and the performance of the team. And I think go ahead.
Yeah, you bring a really good point, because there could be 100% commitment to the work, But if there's no 100% commitment to the team, and like you said, to each other, then that becomes something that can actually prevent you from actually achieving that high performance you were speaking about. So it's commitment to the work, it's commitment to each other, and it's commitment as well to the overall success of the team, not at the individual level.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, Richard. So I think when when your individuals are committed to the work, it's like silos, right? Because I think each individual part creates the sum, the masses, right? So I see in organizations like different business units are siloed and they're doing great work independently because they're committed to the work, but they're not committed to each other, right? So when you're committed to each other, then we work faster, smarter, more creatively, more innovatively because we have each other's back, right? So you're able to achieve results farther and faster because you're thinking of innovative ways. And then you also have team momentum that really you can build on that energy to get there quicker and faster.
Thank you again for joining us on this week's episode of Rich Nuggets. And as we always say, let's go out and do something wonderful.